I just want to start this off by just saying that I did not play this game well. I'm just going to start by saying that, knowing it's my opponent. I'm just saying I just did not play this game well. The reason I'm saying this, and by the way, this is post-com because, some drunk person came into my room, while recording this, so I wasn't able to kind of get good footage, but I just decided to mention this at first because, like, I think it's a very common trend of this video, and you'll kind of see why, and I'll kind of explain why at the end of the video, but that's just something that everybody should be aware of. So, I decided to leave Paul here, and looking at my opponent's team, Paul looks very good here, because if Rotom is a lead, that's good. Group Net could be a little bit unfortunate, because something would get spored, but then I kind of concluded about just going to Dunsparce if that was the case, so I think Dragapult was just the safest lead here. So, we start the battle. I feel okay about this matchup. I was also kind of stressed at the time, so like I wasn't able to kind of like either prep, but they start out with the Great Tusk, which I think it wasn't the best lead for me, of course, like, but like I feel okay right now just to launch off I feel okay right here because the Great Tusk is here. Not Great Tusk, Iron Shreds is here. It's not going to do much, so I think it's like, okay, it's not booster, so I feel pretty good about Paul outspeeding it. So I'm just like, okay, my best play here is the Flamethrower. That's always my play because that's great, because this Iron Shreds could never kill me, and it can't really do much to me. But they end up actually being Scarf, which is okay. It's kind of huge, but it's kind of my fault here not playing around the Iron Shreds being Scarfed, and I just played a little bit recklessly because losing that life orb is so huge, and I just thought, like, after like examining this match, I just realized that this was just not the best case scenario. Like, this is probably like one of the worst case scenarios this could happen. But now I'm like, okay, Paul, I don't want Paul to die because it could easily revenge stuff. So I decide, I'm like, okay, there's not gonna be a huge chance, there's not gonna be a guarantee that the Salamence is going to be intimidated. So I have to take that risk in order to kind of gain some momentum back, which I decided to go to Scissor now, and this was also an extremely bad play. Losing my clear ammo right here led me very vulnerable to any types of defensive Salamence here, because the reason I brought clear ammo was to help, and I could have probably went into Dunsparce here, if I'm being honest. I think going into Dunsparce is a better play here, and I do think going to Scissor was a bit reckless because I think Scissor's my kind of sweeper at the end, and just kind of like taking that much damage right off the bat is not great. They end up going into Salamence, and to my surprise, what I prepped for it do end up being defensive Salamence, and this puts me in an extremely awkward position right here. Like, up to this point, I've just been playing extremely not good, and I think at this point, Hollowkid has the lead over me. So I'm like, okay. Knowing that you are Rocky Helmet, I do have a good play here just to go into a Dragapult and just launch off a Draco Meteor. That's always my play here. I think there's no way that, since it's not Scarfed, the only thing I could really punish here, which is something I kind of did have to risk, was a Draco Meteor. I did not really want to risk a Draco Meteor because if I missed, I was in a terrible position and probably would have just lost on the spot, if I'm being completely honest. But like, in order to gain some control back, I needed to make this Draco Meteor play so I could at least get some good chip on something. But again, if I would have missed this Draco Meteor right here, I would have probably just lost off the spot because I was just in such a very bad position. They ended up going Armor Rouge here though, which isn't amazing. It's amazing for me. It's amazing for me because basically Armor Rouge was probably one of the biggest threats and probably one of the biggest sweepers of this game. So they could be Scarfed, but like I was like, okay, I'm okay sacking a Paul. Paul did enough, and I just want to get positive because basically, if best case scenario right here for me is something dies. Because if something dies, I get into Palafin, and I could possibly get up a Jet Punch. I could get momentum because basically at this point, my tools are so diminished because I just sacrificed this lead so much that basically in my mind, I'm like, Palafin is my endgame. Palafin is how I win this game. So they actually ended up swapping the armors, which is like, okay, kind of confused at first. But then they actually go into this thing, which I agree with his play by them, because like they were just like basically they knew that armor was just basically get sacked off, so they just wanted to get Rotom in. And at this point, what do I go into? I think I don't go into Lucha. I go into Dunsparce. Yep, I go into Dunsparce here to kind of get this calm mind up, because I think, and at this point I thought I was going to disconnect, but luckily I did not. But getting this calm mind up, it will be huge and will put me in a very, very good position. Like if I get this calm mind, I use a ton of pressure, but I discount one of the most common Rotom sets, and probably one of the best Rotom sets that Rotom runs, which is Trick Choice Scarf, which puts me probably in this position right here. I was in my mind, I always lose. Like, I'm such in the back foot here that like there's no way I actually win, because like the Dunsparce doesn't do much here. I basically have this thing as a sack now, and that's not great at all, because basically the Dunsparce is just gonna kind of sit here and do absolutely nothing. So I'm like, okay, shit, I don't know what I do. So I was like, okay, I could sack off Halt if need be, because I basically want to free swap in, and I didn't want to sack off Scissor because that helps me against freaking Iron Valiant. So in my mind, I was like, okay, sacking up Halt is okay here, because then I get a free swap on a Palafin and I could get some momentum. So I go here, I'm like, okay, I'm okay letting Halt die. And looking back at this, kind of a terrible play. Like, I think this whole entire game, like a trend, is just I've just been playing extremely recklessly, like more recklessly than I needed to do, because basically what I could have probably done here was probably this is tricky. I think I should have U-turned into the Dunsparce and just let this thing set up if need be, because then I think I always kill Iron Valiant. I guess there is a chance of Berry Berry, but as we'll kind of figure out later on, but Iron Valiant actually ends up being a Life Orb. So that means Bullet Punch would probably, because I was max attack, so Bullet Punch would have mostly always KO'd here. So, and yeah, that's what I ended up doing. I ended up like, okay, second into Dunsparce. I don't really need this amount anymore. And like, but like, I do agree with first Shadow Ball. I should have just swapped straight into Dunsparce, not even risk the Shadow Ball, because the Dunsparce was not good at this point, and they could have easily just killed Dragapult there, which is just not good. And I think Dragapult still had some merit, so I think I should have just swapped straight into Dunsparce straight away. But it's okay, because now I get a free swap it into Scissor, in which could Bullet Punch. But the problem here now is I'm in a position where I'm locked into Bullet Punch, and for two plays are so obvious here. For two extreme, no, I was like, this is like another point. I was like, okay, I could Bullet Punch, guarantee KO, but I kind of want to save Terra Electric for Rotom Heat. And so like, yeah, they withdraw this thing, and then they go into the freaking Salamence, which puts me in a very, very awkward position here, because I was forced to Bullet Punch. Like, I needed to kill this thing, because if I just did not Bullet Punch and stayed in, I would have lost. Like, there's no way I would have won. At this point, I think I go to Rotom. Yep, I go to Rotom because the Salamence can't really do much. And I'm like, okay, I'm so far behind, I need to get caught up somehow. So I think going to Rotom was the best play here. They Dragon Dance, which I'm like, okay, this is interesting. This puts me in an extremely bad position here, because they are basically Dragon Dance defensive Salamence, which I find extremely cool. I think this was an extremely cool bring by them, at least. And I love this bring, to be honest. I think it does so good versus my team. But yeah, basically Rotom. I decided to go for a Wisp here, just to get some kind of good chip on the Salamence, if need be. And if Rotom dies, to be honest, if Rotom dies, that would be a big issue. This would probably contribute to me losing, to possibly losing. But they roost, which I think this is unfortunate, but like this is kind of what you expect from Willis. I'm not that mad about it. I miss. It's like, okay, cool. I was tilted at the moment, but like, it's Mons. Like, what can you really do? It's something you gotta expect. If you lose because of Willis, it's not because of Willis, but it's more because you took that risk to use Willow, when I could probably use something else like, since they roosted, Thunderbolt would have died with the ultimate play. But I did this risk, so I deserve to get punished. That's how I work at hacks, but I decide to Willow again because I'm like, okay, this is my safest play. I don't want Salmons just staying in here destroying me. So the best play I could do is just Willow again. They go into Rotom, and I'm like, okay. This is huge. This is really, really good for me. The reason I say this, I'm okay sacking off Rotom here. Any day, because this is the one thing, the one mon that beats Palafin 1v1. This is a one mon that really scares me, because the Salmon scared me for Palafin, but this thing scared me even more because it could Willow, it could get Thunderbolt momentum, get Volt Switch momentum, it could Thunderbolt, kill Palafin, stuff like that. So at this point, I'm like, okay, I'm okay sacrificing my Terra and possibly sacrificing my whole Rotom just to kill this Rotom Wash, just because I found a clear endgame. And I think even that, the Hydro Miss was very unfortunate for them. But again, that's, if you use Hydro Pump, you're basically contributing to that risk. So yeah, I Thunderbolt here. And they're on range of a number. I forgot if I actually Thunderbolt Volt Switch here, but no matter what, they're in range right here. I think I Volt Switch here, right? Yeah, I Volt Switch because they're in range. So I Volt Switch here because if this kills Rotom here, it's Shadow Ball, which I was like confused about, but I was like, okay, cool. This does a decent chunk. But I Volt Switch into Palafin, get momentum here, and I think I kill Rotom. I kill Rotom, I'm making crit matter. And I basically go into Palafin and get Hero Form. And this is absolutely huge right here, because I think I'm still in a position where, like, okay, I'm gonna lose this. I'm definitely gonna lose this. But I'm like, there's a chance. There's a chance I could win. Because I basically gonna Palafin here, it's Choice Band. So it's gonna always punch a hole into something. And no matter what they go into, they can go into Salmons, they can go into whatever, I'm okay with it. And I'm always in a decent position here. They go into, okay, to be honest, I love this play a lot from them. They basically are like, okay, this thing's probably either Scarfed or Bandit is gonna lock himself into something. And we always get Salmons momentum after this. So they sack off Iron Treads, which I love this play. Because they basically, if they're Bandit, okay, we always get the free D-Dance with Salmons here. And this puts me overall in a very, very tricky position, because I know what we're scouting for. I exactly know what we're scouting for. So I'm like, okay, I'm in a very peculiar position right now, and overall very bad position. Because if I Dragon Dance, I could lose. So I decided to go Hollowkid here because I predict for Dragon Dance. I do not know at this point for full moveset. In hindsight, Rotom was a better play. Or even Pulp. But basically, this was a very, very bad play by my part. I swap into Salmons, them going for Dual Wing Beat, killing my Hulucha. This is extremely reckless and extremely bad in my opinion, because I predicted a Dragon Dance, because, yeah, and then I would have at least got some chip. But by this, I basically wasted a whole entire Pokemon, which is extremely bad. In hindsight, Rotom would be better because I could at least Thunderbolt or what Will-O-Wisp. And if they set up Dragon Dance, I'm not in a bad position at all. So, I go into Palafin here. And basically, Hawlucha was very, very good with this endgame in my opinion. Like, Choice Scarf, but just like, it plowed through his team a decent amount. And I think I definitely did need Choice Scarf Hawlucha to end. But I jet punch here. No, I ice punch. We sack off our merge. But I should have went Rotom Bear. And getting ice punch here is pretty huge. Pretty huge. We get some good chip. They go back into Salamence. But at this point, I know that you have Dragon Dance, Roost, do Wing Beat. And probably Earthquake. I want to assume Earthquake. Probably not Earthquake. Probably something like Stone Edge. I see something like Stone Edge or Dragon Claw. But I go for a straight ice punch. And this is pretty huge because I know we're not full max speed or most of the speed time. And then I know by this another dueling beat will not KO me. So I just decided to ice punch again because there's really no point in not ice punching. So I ice punch, kill the Salamence. If I would have sacked off Rotom here, or at least going to Rotom at least, I would have had a lot more tools to work with. But at this point, I'm just kind of like, sacking off Hawlucha was extremely bad here because I think it just put me in a much better position if I sacked off Rotom rather than Hawlucha. So yeah, because I still have Rupanet, but like at the same time I was Terra Electric, so it wasn't really gonna matter. So I think I decided to sack on Rotom here. Do I? I think I sack off Rotom. Yeah, I'm pretty sure I always go to Rotom here. But I think they Drain Punch here. Which having Hawlucha would be better here, because I didn't necessarily need Rotom, and it's basically going to be sacked no matter what. So even if I had to sack it off to Salamence, I would still be in a better position. Because yeah, basically, yeah, I have to sack off Rotom here. And yeah, I would be sacrificing my Terra, but at the same time, Rotom was not going to do much anymore, so there's really no point in keeping it. Possibly get like overheat and Rupanet, but I think Brave Bird would have just swept from here. Brave Bird from Hawlucha would have just swept. That's the best way I can explain it. And I would have been in a pretty similar position if I sacked off Rotom rather than Hawlucha. But like, Hawlucha would have just been able to sweep. At this point, I just go to Scissor. There's no point in not going to Scissor. Because Scissor is just able to always go to the Bullet Punch here. Break any potential slash from Rupanet. Get potential chip on Rupanet for just in case they are Tanga Berry, which is a bug reducing berry. So yeah, Bullet Punch is always just on the whole play here. I'm gonna get some chip. And at this point, one thing I was really scared of is if I had to be an investment of a Scissor. So I was really scared that they were max speed Rupanet, but they weren't. So best case scenario. I think they're like Assault Vest, like max HP, max attack. So we go into Scissor here, and just Palafin. I send a Palafin here, and it's just Iron Valley here. And at this point, this game is pretty much wrapped up. Because I think always, no matter what, Jet Punch plus Bullet Punch always just claims a KO. This Iron Valiant, and they could try to set up, but it just still wasn't gonna do much. And we Jet Punch, doesn't KO, barely, but it's okay. I still did a lot. Palafin did a lot work here, and I think this is kind of like a testament that like you don't really need to lead Palafin to always win a game. You could put him back sometimes, and it just does about the same, which I like about it. That's what I really like about Palafin. Everybody plays Palafin differently, but yeah. Jet Punch plus Bullet Punch always KOs this. It could be Sneak. I was really scared of Sneak for a while, but like, if they were Agility, they weren't gonna Sneak. But yeah, that's pretty much a game. And GG to Hollowkid, but I do want to kind of point out, I'm gonna pause this, but let's actually go to a better. Let's go to a better one. Okay, we're gonna pause here. But before I wrap this up, I do want to cover the point that just because you win a game doesn't necessarily mean that you played well. I'm not saying Hollowkid played bad at all. I think, okay, if I'm completely honest, I think Hollowkid had control over the whole entire game. I think he had all the control he had. But I think what messed him up was he took too much chip on certain mods. And I think also sacking Salamence was also a little bit of a big issue, because that way Palafin just kind of steamrolled from the whole entire team. And then there's other things that could have been sacked off besides the Salamence, and I think that would have probably lost me the game. But, if I'm being completely honest, I do not feel good about this win. Because I personally feel like I don't deserve it, because there's some hacks that happen, but I think, in my opinion, there's an equal amount of hacks that happened. But I felt like I played like shit, if I'm completely honest. Like, it was one of those games that, like, yeah, I won by skill, but, like, I didn't win in my mind, because, like, I personally am not comfortable with the plays I made. I could basically counter-argue a play I can make differently for each of my plays. So, it's one of those things that, like, you could argue that I played decent, but in my mind, I don't feel like I played that well. I felt it was more like I won because certain plays panned out in my favor, if that makes sense. Not like I won because I outskilled my opponent, if that makes sense. Because basically with my plays, it makes sense that, like, I just clicked a button. I didn't really think about my plays, I just clicked a button, and I don't really feel good about winning that way. So this is just kind of like a statement saying that, like, just because you win a match doesn't mean that, like, it always feels good. Because in my mind, at least, Hollowkid should have won this match. Because in my opinion, he played a lot better than me. I don't think I played well at all. I think I should have always lost this game. That's my personal opinion. I still feel like I lost this game because I felt like the plays I made were just not that good. So, that's what I kind of want to cover in this video, and that's kind of like the theme of this video. That just because you win doesn't mean that you're like, you always played well. I think I won because Hollowkid made some more fatal plays than me, like stacking off Salamence and taking chip on stuff like Armor Rouge. But I think overall my plays were not that optimal. I just wanted to say that right here because I think it's kind of like a valuable lesson that draft league players could actually learn. That, like, winning always doesn't feel good.